Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the NFL Draft Triple Take, brought to you by UPMC. Mike Prisuta, along with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson. Another day, another mock. We've mocked before, and we will mock again before the blessed event, the NFL Draft, April the 27th through the 29th in Kansas City. Guys, I'm excited for this edition, but a little disappointed. I think by now we should have a soundtrack for these, some background music, because there are a lot of options if we chose to go that way. You could, for example, be listening to me speak right now and hearing AC/DC's For Those About to Mock. You could be hearing Mock You Like a Hurricane by the Scorpions. You could be hearing Mock With You by Michael Jackson, or I Want to Mock by Twisted Sister. I could do this all night. Oldies fans, Mock Around the Clock by Bill Haley in the Comets. And for you country boys, Alan Jackson's Don't Mock the Jukebox would be perfect accompaniment. Alas, we have none of that.
We have none of that, but we have mock drafts.
We do, and soundtrack or not, the show must go on. We are not the Globo Gym Cobras, but we will mock you. Dale, why don't you lead us off with your top 10?
How do I follow that up?
But go ahead.
Well, if you look here at my top 10, I think Bryce Young has solidified himself as the number one pick. That seems to be pretty much where everything is leaning now. The question now becomes at 2, do the Houston Texans go with C.J. Stroud? You're starting to hear some rumors that they might not go that direction. Could be a smokescreen. I think they want to try to maybe trade out of that pick and see if somebody else will move up there, potentially maybe the Colts or something like that. But I don't have that happening here. We didn't do any trades in our draft, so quarterbacks going in 3 of the top 4 picks, 4 in the top 10 with Will Levis going there at 7. And, I think when you look at your top 10, it's probably going to be in some type of order like this. Maybe another name thrown in there, one of those other guys dropping off. But this is getting pretty chalky at this point.
Yeah, the names, the usual suspects keep showing up. It's just in what order. Matt, how did you stack it 1 through 10?
Yeah, I am believing the hype that it's going to be Young at 1. I think Houston's interesting, though, and I went a different direction. I mean, DeMeco Ryans comes from the Niners that, stress defensive linemen more than anyone in the league except for maybe the Eagles, and he's a Bama guy. So I went with Will Anderson at 2. I actually think they have some job security there. Maybe he can wait.
Factor there, he's a Bama guy. I mean,
he's a Bama guy.
You think the Houston Texans job has some job security? They fired their last 2 coaches after 1 year.
I think this one might actually stick for more than that. Plus, they pick at 12, so maybe they land a quarterback there. Who's to say? At 4, though, without trades, I think the Colts just run to the podium. The Strouds there. That's a perfect situation for them.
I think they run so fast they fall down and have to get up and start running again.
Yeah, but again, a lot of chalk here. Didn't know what quite to do with Anthony Richardson. I thought the Raiders were as good a fit as any. Lucas Van Ness, maybe this is a little early for him, but Atlanta's gone really heavy on the defensive side of the ball.
Glad to see you guys getting on that Anthony Richardson bandwagon.
I'm a believer.
I've been there a while.
Yeah.
If you take a look at my top 10, I've got Stroud number 1, and I have a hard time differentiating between Stroud and Young, other than Stroud is a little taller. Mm-hmm. And I think they're both, not necessarily run by design unless they have to, guys, but they're both capable. I don't see much wrong with either one of them. I've got Levis going 4 to the Colts, and I don't know that I have any real surprises in here other than possibly number 10. Back when we started this process, my initial mock, I had Bijan Robinson going to the Eagles. I thought running back there made a lot of sense, even though that's not Philadelphia philosophically. And I think now it's going to come back to Philadelphia philosophically. And I think Bresee probably on the short list of the top 3 to 5 guys who have had great pre-draft process / off seasons.
Oh, I love him. It's just a matter of where does he slot into this, because he is clearly, to me, the number 2 defensive tackle in this draft.
Yeah, I agree.
And also, I have Richardson to Seattle because the Seahawks have a bunch of picks, including another one in the first round. And if you look at Richardson as a guy who needs a little time to marinate because he didn't start very many games, relatively speaking, that's a spot where you can get a quarterback for the future now. You've got a bridge guy, and you can still address your current team later in the first round. I think that makes some sense. Either 5 or 7 for Richardson for me.
Yeah. I would be shocked if Seattle's in this neighborhood in the next year or 2, so this might be their last chance to grab a blue-chip quarterback.
Dale, let's flip it back to you and take a look at picks 11 through 20.
Well, I looked at this a little bit differently this time around, and where to put Devin Witherspoon. I think the Jets. If he goes to the Jets, all of a sudden now they've got a really good cornerback duo, maybe one of the best in the league. With that, the tackles continue to fall off the board there. Broderick Jones goes to the Patriots. Get Joey Porter Jr. at 16 to Washington, and Bijan Robinson to Detroit. I don't know that they're sold on their running backs, and you could see maybe a trade there of one of their backs.
I don't think that's out of character at all.
Yeah.
They like to run the ball.
They want to run the football, and you get the best guy there, and it's just a value pick for them. I got Brisset going at 20 to Seattle, and Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah, am I reading that right? Wide receiver, 17th overall?
I like it.
Absolutely. I think he's the best receiver in this draft class. I have Quentin Johnston going ahead of him because he's a bigger receiver. He's a little bit of an outlier in this draft in terms of the size, but I think Smith and Jigba, with his ability to cut on a dime and the way he plays. 2 years ago, he was the #1 receiver at Ohio State, and Wilson last year in the NFL was the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. This guy's better.
Plus, his brother's playing for the Pirates.
There you go.
Got a guy who knows his way around town.
He'll have somewhere
already.
to stay.
Save a little on rent.
Yeah.
That's making more sense to me the more we talk it out. Matt, what do you got 11 through 20?
I went with Smith and Jigba to the Patriots. They've been trying to find a receiver in the draft forever. I think he's as close to a can't-miss guy as there is, solid. I look at the Titans' offensive line and think they really need a little bit of everything, a guard, a tackle, whatever. Skoronski's going to fit in somewhere. Houston didn't take a quarterback in my mock at 2, but then they take Levis at 12. So kind of works out and, go from there.
Does,
yeah, that works out pretty well. Green Bay, in mine, would have taken Smith and Jigba, and he goes right in front of them, and then they take Kincaid. They got to find some sort of pass catcher. And you mentioned Brizee. I have him going to the Steelers, which I think could be perfect to kind of learn from Cam Hayward and go from there.
Yeah, I've got some changes from my last mock on 11 through 20. And Paris Johnson, if he's still there, to me, to Mike Vrabel, is an automatic. Sure. I've got Joey Porter Jr. going to the Steelers at 17. I kept doing these, and I kept having one cornerback left, and it kept being him. Mm-hmm. So I think certainly wouldn't argue the Steelers prioritizing cornerback. Steelers could go a number of ways on this thing, and it would make sense. But Robinson to Tampa, stumbled upon that a couple mocks ago. I think that guy's way better than the 19th overall player.
Yeah, sure.
And, by the way, Tampa didn't run the ball very well last year, so that kind of fits in there as well. Branch is a wild card for me. Got him going 16 to Washington.
You can put him with any team.
How sold are you on positionless football?
Very. I mean, I think he could fit anywhere in any team or any defense would love to have that
Yeah,
guy.
and if you watch the versatility and production he displayed against Kansas State in the Sugar Bowl was just, I went back and watched that
I
game
love him.
again.
I think any team
blew
in
me
the
away.
league could use that guy.
Yeah. So I don't think he's going to be on the board very long. Dale, let's take a look at your bottom third.
Well, here we go. So I got a 21. The Chargers taking Zay Flowers. I think Deonte Banks to the Ravens just makes so much sense. I know everybody's saying wide receiver for them.
I'm saying wide receiver for them.
They need help in the defensive backfield, which sounds crazy, but why not keep the Maryland guy in state and take Deonte Banks there? Nolan Smith is another one of these wild cards in this draft for me.
Still have edge there, I noticed.
Yeah, he could play either way. It doesn't really matter. And I got Branch going at 24 to Jacksonville. Again, you just don't know where that he's going to fall in there. Looking at some of these other guys here, how about Michael Mayer at 31 to the Chiefs and allowing him to learn from the great Travis Kelce for a year,
No, I
or
like
two,
that approach.
or three, however long it takes. But you're replacing a strength with a strength.
How about Joe Tippmann at 29? You're off the man with three names train a little bit.
He's my number one in center.
him all along,
He's my number one center. He's a big dude that can move. He's nasty. He's a Wisconsin lineman, and I know. I think there's a possibility he could play right tackle in the NFL. He's big enough. He's agile enough.
He's so big, you can't spell Tippmann without two P's.
Two P's and two N's, baby. Yeah.
Matt, let's take a look at how you wrapped up the bottom third of round one.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the Eagles here near the end. I had them going a corner, Witherspoon, but they're not going to get away from their DNA, which is defensive linemen. Just keep a strength. We talked about the Saints a minute ago. They're really light at defensive tackle right now. I mean, that's probably the weakest area of their team. So I gave them Mazzie Smith. We talked about Mayer. He would fit in really well with the Bengals. Their tight end situation's a little up in the air right now.
Kalijah Cansey sighting down there at 26 with Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, they already have a really good pass rush, and even if he's not an every down player for them, you match him with Micah Parsons and Lawrence. That's a lot to deal with. And then we'll talk about the Giants, too. The Giants have invested early first-round picks in tackles, but as much as they run the ball now, they've invested in Saquon, they've invested in Daniel Jones, the interior of their O-line could really use some beef, and Torrance, to me, is a plug-and-play guard.
Yeah, I would agree. Turning to my bottom third, I like a receiver to the Chargers. Maybe not necessarily that one, but a receiver. I thought that was a different team, as any team would be when you start sustaining a number of injuries at one position.
Yeah.
It limits what your franchise quarterback can do.
They were really low in explosive plays.
I've been a big Zay Flowers guy all along. Dale, I've got Quentin Johnston going to Baltimore because I think it's screaming receiver. You made some compelling arguments. I'm not going to listen to them. Like Matt, I've got Cansey going to Dallas. I think he can be a really splashy guy, and not sure exactly how or where the exact fit would be, but draft a football player and get him in there. Drew Sanders to Buffalo at 27. That's a free agency reaction.
Edmonds replacement.
From my perspective. And I've got Meyer going to the Bengals. Start a little bit of a tight end run. Saints also need a tight end. I've been a big Cody Mauch fan all along, and for all the talk in previous.
You mock Cody Mauch a lot.
Yeah. And
Mauch around the clock.
Eagles are going to get a running back. Eagles are going to step out of character, do this and do that. No, they're going to get an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman because that's what they do. And then Wright going to Andy Reid at 31. I think they would too. So there you have it. That is the latest but not the last mock draft that we're going to have for you here. I want to thank everybody for finding us on whatever Steelers social media platform you manage to find us. Keep coming back. We appreciate it. We're going to keep churning out the content right up until the NFL draft, April the 27th through the 29th in Kansas City. Until next time, for Matt Williamson and Dale Lolley, I'm Mike Prisuta. This has been the NFL Draft Triple Take, brought to you by UPMC.